It says we are live. All right, Chammers, how you doing tonight? Welcome to my first ever self-hosted live stream. I have with me here tonight the inestimable Rob Thomas, newly minted line editor for Shadowrun. Rob, introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name's RJ Thomas. Some of my friends call me Rob. My given name. I was before I became Shadowrun line developer. I was a writer for Catalyst for over 12 years. Been working across multiple Shadowrun editions, starting all the way back in 4th edition through 5th, and now into 6th. We'll see where things go from there. Other than that, just pretty much a big giant nerd, just like everybody else who seems to be into tabletop, in a good way. And, I guess you could say I'm kind of living the dream a little bit.
Awesome.
I get to actually, my geek and nerd habits, I'm now getting paid for them. That's a good thing.
It's always a good thing, yes.
And are we still looking around waiting for all the technical issues to pop up?
Oh, I'm waiting to see if anything blows up here.
Okay, so if we get nothing but static and stuff like that, I just continue on until
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think from that standpoint, everything is good. So how did what got you started in the game in the first place?
So I've actually been involved in Shadowrun itself, probably going all the way back till like the early 90s, probably a couple years before first edition came out. My first edition was actually edition number 2. I think I started up the run, I want to say around 93-ish, something like that. I was in high school at the time, and one of my best friends kind of said, "Hey, here's this really cool book you ought to check out." And I was just like, okay. And, at the time, similar story. A lot of my friends were into tabletop games like Dungeons and Dragons. That was, the big thing back then, but it was never really my jam. Fantasy at the time, just not for me. So, and this friend knew about it, and he handed me a copy of SR2, and it had, all the fantasy elements. Okay, that's fine. But then it had technology. I'm like, okay. And then it had guns. I'm like, really? Okay.
There we go.
And, yeah. Yep. And then it had like cybernetics and aircraft and, armored up vehicle, just everything a sci-fi nerd like myself loves, because, believe it, contrary to what a lot of people believe, I'm not just a Shadowrun fan. I do like other brands and genres and stuff like that, but Shadowrun was probably the first tabletop game that I got into. And I played it all the way throughout, 2nd edition into 3rd edition. I want to say probably about around the 2000s, I stopped playing because I think that was about the time 4th edition came out. I just, I had a lot going on in life, didn't have a chance to really play anything really. And Shadowrun, the rule changes from 4th edition, I honestly just didn't feel like buying another set of books. So I was like, you know what? I got other things I got to do. So I kind of got out of it. And it honestly wasn't until about, I want to say 2009-ish, when I kind of got back into Shadowrun. I was actually, my first daughter had been born. So I just moved into my new apartment, our temporary place until we got our house. And there was this bookcase built into one of the walls. So I started putting up a lot of my old books. And some of those books were some of my old Shadowrun books, like some of the old novels back in the day, Never Deal with it, the Dragonheart trilogy, those books and stuff like that. And I was also working a night job at the time, working 3rd shift. So I had a lot of free time. So I started grabbing some of those books, started reading them again. I was like, oh man, I kind of miss this stuff. And I kind of got curious. So one day I went down to my local game store and grabbed a copy of 4th edition, but rather the, I think it was the 20th anniversary edition.
Oh yeah.
So I got a hold of that, started looking through it, and it was it was cool. It was interesting to see how the game had progressed, and it wasn't as bad as some people had told me. But I remember reading something, and I don't know if it was just because I was tired, it was late at night, but I'm going through this fourth edition book. And like I said, it was good, but it didn't really grab me. And I had one of those weird, literally one of those weird voices in the back of my head. Take that for what you will. And it said to me, he's like, you know what? I could write. I thought to myself, you know what? This is good, but I felt like I could do better. And then literally the little voice said, okay, put up or shut up. And I was like, okay. I don't know where that came from. Call it divine intervention, subconscious, whatever. I'm not saying nothing. But what it did do is it kind of gave me the impetus of kind of like, why not? So from there, started reading up on fourth edition, started getting more books, started becoming familiar. But then another opportunity fell into my lap. At about the time, there's this gentleman by the name of Stephen Radkovich. You might know him, and Shadowrun fans might know him as Bull.
I know Bull. I've known Bull for
Bull. Great guy.
I've known Bull for a long time.
You've known him longer than I have, and I've known him for a long time. So, but what happened was I was on the Shadowrun forums at the time because, I wanted to reach out to other players, see who else was interested in the game. And there was an all call for people for the Catalyst demo team to run actual Shadowrun games at Origins Convention in Columbus, Ohio. And I'm an Ohio native, so I was like, you know what? This sounds like fun. I'll head down there and I'll see what's up. So I started running games down in Columbus. But when I got there, I found out that the line developer at the time, my predecessor, Jason Hardy, was also there. So I kind of made it a bit of a personal mission to try to get some FaceTime with him. So
good call.
Yeah. So I kind of stalked him a little bit at that convention. And I eventually, if I wasn't running a game and I knew he was going to be somewhere, I tried to be there. He eluded me for a little while until I want to say probably about the third day of the convention. It's a Wednesday through Sunday convention. I think it was on a Friday. At the time, the demo team people would always meet at a local restaurant. It was a Mongolian barbecue, just kind of hang out, get to know each other, fun stuff. Great place called BD's. They've got a few in the area, really good. But, and then that's Jason and his wife showed up. So I sucked it up, went over and, introduced myself. And I asked them a very simple question. So what do I have to do to work for you? And Jason, being Jason, was very gracious. And he said, well, send me a writing sample to 1,500 words. Yeah, that's it. And send it to this email address. And I'll take a look at it. And he's told me he wouldn't get to it till after Gen Con, which is 6 weeks later. Long story short, in that 6 weeks, I sat down, racked my brain for about a month, and finally was able to get out enough of a kind of a coherent story that, apparently he liked, because about 2 weeks after he got back from Gen Con, he said, how'd you like to be in the freelancer pool? And that was it. So I was off and running from there. And at that point, I just started pitching and trying to get in on every single book that came out. I didn't care if I only wrote like 3 words into it. As long as it got me experience and a writing credit, I was there. So
there you go. There you go.
Yep. And nowadays, I haven't done quite as much, but I would say for my first solid 8 years or so writing for Catalyst, it was easier to tell people what books I didn't contribute to than the ones I actually did.
I was there.
Yeah,
I remember that period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
I was there for that. Cool. So you've been writing for what? 12 years?
12 years now. Yep. I think it'll be 13 by year's end, because I kind of started, like I said, a little late in the year. But yeah, 13 years. But
wow.
Long time, a lot of production, a lot of word count later. So I actually added it up at one point, I think a couple years ago, and I had over, I want to say, 300,000 words.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a lot. So
it's a very great deal. I know that feeling. So when did you start inching towards the LD role?
Well,
how did that come about?
Okay, so I've always been a bit of a self-starter when it comes to crazy and crackpot ideas, and
Yeah.
Shadowrun being a wonderful place for crazy and crackpot ideas.
It's
I
what
would
we
often,
do.
yeah, it's what we do. I would often pitch ideas to Jason at the time. Like, hey, like one of the first things that I pitched that was totally my idea was a little ebook called 10 Mercs, because I've got a thing for military history, stuff like that, law enforcement, police, and I was in emergency medical services for a few years before I got
Cool.
into a career in law enforcement. Quick little. So, yeah. And
Cool.
yes, you could buy these at the Catalyst Game Lab store. Yes, I'm also a corporate shill now. So, but
Well,
anyway,
it's part of the job description.
it is literally part of the job description. I have to be the corporate shill. So anytime I can, I will. But but ideas like 10 Mercs where I got to kind of write what I wanted to. And there's a few other things I got to pitch for that were just totally on my own. And Jason just kept giving them to me. And the general rule of thumb is if they keep giving you work, they like your work.
True.
So I just kept doing it. And then eventually, I started seeing a lot of things happening that I'm like, again, that little voice in the back of my brain said, hey, I could do a good job with this. And I would often try to take point on a lot of stuff. So, yes, you are the first, and I don't know. I honestly don't know. Okay. So, but we'll come back to that later.
Hopefully much later. Huh?
Yeah, much later. yes.
I've been through many edition changes. I was play testing the 4E change, and I wrote part of the 5E change. And if I never have to do that again,
ooh, yeah, it's rough.
ever in my life,
I was involved in the changeover from 5 to 6 just a little bit, but yeah, that was just like yikes. But anyway, get back to the story. How I got the line dev job. It was just a combination of I started doing more and asking to do more. Hey, can I help you with editing? Hey, can I do this? Hey, can I help you with that? Because Jason Hardy, bless his soul, he was I didn't realize until I got the line dev job just how many hats he wore in the company and still wears to this day. I think he actually, with his new position, actually took on more hats, which just blows my mind. But I want the original idea I had, and a lot of the other freelance writers at the time were like, Jason needs some help, So I would have been perfectly.
We were saying that when I was still writing for the line, Rob.
Yeah, I still don't know how he managed to pull it all off, but more power to him and lots of respect to him. But I was actually kind of pushing towards maybe trying to get an assistant position. Hey, Jason, let me take a couple of these. Take point on some of these projects or a couple of things, and then I'll just report back to you so it takes the load off of your shoulders to help out. That's what I was originally shooting for. Okay.
Yeah.
And I got kind of a chance to show some of my chops when a little book called Cutting Black came out a couple years ago, back in 2019. Yeah. And I pitched that idea because I wanted to do a certain plot thing with the city of Detroit. I had this crazy idea, and that's all I really wanted. But Jason kept saying, okay, we could do this, but the powers that be, they want more. Okay. So I started adding more. Well, we want to add something else from this plot line we want in there too. I'm like, okay. I started adding that in. And that plot line is the current plot line with, I can talk about him now because Scotophobia is out again, Catalyst Game Lab store. Check it out. But it's basically this are essentially extraplanar invaders who have infiltrated the material plane of 6-World Society to such a degree that when it was finally revealed, everyone had a WTF moment. And when that plot line was originally started, a lot of people had a lot of ideas. There were some good ideas, some bad ideas, but that's just how it is. But the one thing I noticed that everyone was kind of going in their different directions with this. So I went to Jason. I'm like, hey, Jason, since I kind of started this whole plot line in Cutting Black, it was, I had gotten another writer to kind of write the chapter about it, but I was kind of helping, guiding him and say, hey, this is what I want to do. So he wrote half of the chapter, which started that plot line. I wrote the other half of it. And I kind of wanted to make sure we finished it. I kind of felt like I had a responsibility to it and wanted to see it through. So I said, can I start taking the reins on this particular plot line? And through another few books, Third Parallel, Slipstreams, where I kept kind of planting seeds of what's going on. And then finally, Scotophobia came out. And that was kind of the advance of that plot. But what happened with Cutting Black and Scotophobia, I was the project developer, which meant that I essentially was doing kind of the same things that a line developer did, but for that specific product, that particular book. So, right. I did a lot of the writing, I did a lot of the editing, I did the art notes. I worked with the head artist, who basically is in charge of all the art in the book and all that fun stuff. And the first time Cutting Black was insane. It was almost a solid year of my life, and I thought I had PTSD afterwards. No, but I learned a lot of lessons. Mostly what not to do.
You might have had PTSD, Rob.
Well, I had a lot of headaches, went through a lot of Motrin, and maybe one or two adult beverages, but that's okay. So, but no, when the book came out, I guess it did really, really well. People really liked it. I get people come up to me and says, "Hey, I really like this book." And that's kind of what it's all about. But apparently I did enough with Scotophobia. And by the time I got Scotophobia done, which released they had some advanced copies at Gen Con back in August this year.
Right.
It was at that same time where I was also kind of really starting to double down. I was talking with other freelancers about, hey, Jason needs help. I'm going to talk to him about stuff. I'm going to see if I can get something going with him. And the first night of Gen Con, I scheduled a meeting with him, said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about some stuff." And he's like, "Sure, some stuff I want to talk to you about too." And I'm like, "Okay, that could be both good or bad." So
true, very true.
But the plan at that point was I wanted to pitch the idea of me being his assistant, taking on a full-time or at least a part-time, to where I could, I had access to certain things that I could just jump in and do this stuff and say, "Hey, I got this stuff, take a look at it," and then help him get product out. He surprised me. He hit me with a curveball that night, because it was at that meeting after I'd kind of gone into the pitch and told him what I wanted to do with the Dissian plot line. He just sort of says, "Okay, I got something else I want to ask you." And I was like, "Okay." Says, "How would you like to be Shadowrun line developer?" And my jaw hit the floor. That was like so out of nowhere. I mean, I kind of was thinking, "Hey, do you want to?" And I'm thinking, "Oh, please let me ask you be your assistant. Do you want the job?" What? So, and the rest of that convention, of course, I couldn't tell anybody, and I couldn't tell anybody for months. So I'm sitting here going, "Oh," so I held on to that for months. And it wasn't until just a few weeks back, I think it was around the beginning of December, when he was at PAX Unplugged, where it was officially announced. Now, I've known about it for months, and we had been slowly kind of doing a bit of a transition. He was showing me some things, stuff, how it works out behind the scenes, trying to get me up to speed, and we're still working on that. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got the job, because with all the other IPs that Catalyst has picked up recently, it meant that his workload was going to increase tenfold. And there was no way he was going to be able to do both Shadowrun and give it what it needed and still handle all these other IPs. So that's when the Catalyst role-playing game division was created. So Jason took over that division. So he's working on multiple other IPs right now under that division, and basically handed Shadowrun off to me. So, I mean, to put it in terms, if Catalyst was a fleet, I am the captain, and Jason is the admiral. So,
works for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey to everybody in the stream. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. In case you're wandering in late, I've got RJ Thomas, the new Shadowrun line developer, which you may or may not have just heard that story. You can catch it on the playback later. So what is the first product where you're officially when should we expect the first product with you officially listed as
So the next products that release after 2024, Now, right now, I came in at the tail end of another book that is coming out. It is called Smooth Operations, and it is basically the first face core rule book. So for all those who like a little bit, it kind of riffs a little bit on another book called Cutting Aces, which is all about cons and scams and all that social stuff. This kind of
Cool.
takes that to the next level. Okay. So Jason was kind of, he started that with the specs and the initial getting the writers and all that started. I've now come into that at the tail end, and now I'm starting to kind of help with the editing and stuff like this. Whether or not my name as line developer is going to be in that one, I can't really say for sure. But the next book that's going to come out after that, it's called Tarnished Star. Okay, that was also mentioned at PAX. That is going to be the law enforcement security book. So those of you who like your Lone Star and Knight Errant, Eagle Security, and all those guys, this is going to be the book that's going to talk about law and disorder in the Sixth World. That will definitely be my first book with that I started as line developer from beginning to end. So
Sweet.
yeah.
Sweet. I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
Related tangent.
Mm-hmm.
Is Clay Wilson still alive?
Yes. In canon, Clay Wilson is still alive. So we haven't killed him. We haven't killed him off yet.
I need to talk to you after this is all over.
Okay. Clay is in a very interesting one of the things.
Where's Clay at? The last time when I left, it was I left just after Better Than Bad came out.
Mm-hmm.
Just before 6th.
Mm-hmm.
And he was had gone over to take over the enemy at Knight Errant.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he was still in place at Knight Errant when I left, and
Yep.
I'd been talking with Jason about some things that I wanted to do with Clay,
mm-hmm.
and then because of mental health reasons, I decided to stop writing Shadowrun as much as I had, because I've been doing it at that point. I'd been doing it for nearly 20 years.
Wow.
And I had to walk away. It was starting to affect me.
Nope, I understand.
But right now I'm playing around with some Hollow Street stuff, and we'll get to that later. But
awesome.
I had plans for Clay, and Jason seemed agreeable to them at the time, so I would like to discuss them with you.
So what you're saying is you have a pitch for me?
At some point, yes. Yeah.
Hey, I am accepting all pitches at this point. You know what happens to him beyond that, I can't say. But yeah, Clay is still, as far as I know, he is still at Knight Errant. Okay. One of the other things I realized as line developers, I had to get caught up, and I'm still in the process of doing so, getting caught up with all the plot hooks, all of the tangents, everything that is happening. Because when I was doing Scotophobia, just as a project dev, I did the best research that I could. And after it came out, I still have people come up to me saying, you screwed this up, right? And I was like, what? So, but it's not a big thing. It's usually like small stuff here and there, but there's just so much stuff that we kind of need to get a handle on to make sure that, everything is cohesive, because first and foremost, I'm a lore guy. I love story. If it does not have a good storyline to it, it's just not fun for me. I mean, at the end of the day, how you roll the dice and what the actual game mechanics are is immaterial, because in my opinion, that just supplements and moves the story along. So one of the biggest things I'm working towards is to make sure that, as much as game mechanic driven, is that the products going forward are going to have a good story or something fans can latch onto to back that up.
Cool. Yeah, just keeping track of the lore on a property that's 35 years old is
yes, it is very, and soon to be 35 years. Still can't believe that.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was gonna ask is what are the plans for Shadowrun 35?
Well, for Shadowrun itself, there's a whole lot that's still in the works. So unfortunately, I can't really go a whole lot into it. But a lot of the stuff that conspiracy board, if I showed that to you, I'd have to geek you. I'm sorry. That's kind of the whole point of a conspiracy, is that nobody knows about it. Or maybe it's just maybe just giving disinformation. Who knows? But so for Shadowrun 35th anniversary, I can say we are in the works. We're planning a lot of good stuff, especially at some of the conventions. Okay, Gen Con specifically. So we're trying to see what we can do to make those experiences a lot of fun for our players and convention goers. And as far as products, we have a lot of products in the works. Again, I'm still getting my feet underneath me. I'm still trying to figure out what stuff I can and cannot talk about, but I will say there is a lot of stuff that is in the works and coming out. It's not just for the game. We've got some ideas for swag. We've got some ideas for supplement materials.
Cool.
A lot of fun stuff that's coming out. Plus, thank goodness, Catalyst is also starting to put out a lot of swag. You know, I mean, again, for those of you who didn't see it before, yes, but there should be. I need a button at the bottom I can press where it says corporate shill alert, so that way people know. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff coming up. A lot of new books. Like I said, I mentioned Tarnished Star. There's also the follow-up to the to Scotophobia, which will conclude the Dissian plotline and a lot of other things too. So that's going to be the next big book that's coming out.
Yeah,
Plus,
Scotophobia, Fear of the Dark. That sounds like it's
yes.
right up my alley.
Yes, very much so. And and to use the current joke, because I think I'm contractually obligated at this point, is it has nothing to do with Scotsmen. Okay, we love Scotland, we love the Scottish people. So we don't want people to be afraid of them. Okay, now that joke's out of the way, so.
But I was going to say, I'm pretty sure the second that name was proposed, someone came up with that one.
Oh yeah, and here's the thing: when people first heard that, I don't think some people couldn't even pronounce it properly. I can't remember. I mean, I know I called it something weird and different, and Jason had to correct me. So finally, I had to literally sit down and say Scotophobia, Scoti. I think I called it Scotopedia or something weird like that. It was just, but it actually worked out really well because you definitely remember the name. That's for sure.
Oh so. Yeah, it sticks with you after.
Mm-hmm. But so yeah, we've got a lot of. I was going
to ask if the first edition reprint was that part of the.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do have the first edition reprint that is coming out. It's in the works.
How the heck are you doing that? Those plates can't possibly still exist. I mean, you guys are having to put them back together by scratch.
You're not too far off. Let's just say there was a lot of delving and a lot of scanning of old materials, and it was a Herculean effort by our layout guys and Jason Hardy, and warts and all. So if there was a typo in that book, it's going to be in this reprint because we're not fixing anything. We're just we're just re-releasing it because nostalgia factor. And that's, and we might also, and I may not be able to 100% confirm, but that is something that we're going to be pushing a lot, at some of the conventions. So keep your eyes out for stuff related to that too. So
cool.
Yep. So
oh, I hate when my ADHD takes over.
So many questions, so little time. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's things like that, and Swiss cheese for a brain.
Okay.
Mid 50s. So that's what's coming up. What kind of there's going to be a kind of a real change in direction? I mean, where do you want to take the line once things are, all the stuff, all the backlog of Jason originated material is done, and you start pushing into next year and into 25. Where does Rob want to take the line?
Well, That's a very loaded question.
It is.
Hold on.
That's
Give me a
why
second. Let me check. Hey, let me check the NDA. No, can't talk about that. Can't talk about that. Oh, no, forget that. No, that'll get me arrested. No.
We wouldn't
So,
want
like,
that.
no. Shadowrun, like I said, Shadowrun, if you want to ask me the direction I want to take it, I kind of want to get back to basics a little bit. Shadowrun, in my opinion, has always been best when it has a balance between street level stuff that people can get into and some of the higher up stuff that they can eventually find themselves into. Players can find themselves into. I think we've had a lot of big things happening of late. I think I'm probably going to calm that down a little bit, at least story-wise. Give the Sixth World a chance to breathe a little bit, especially after what I'm planning for the follow-up to Scotophobia. So there's going to be some changes. Once that book is done, that's hopefully going to set things up going down the road, and we're going to build off of that. So, like I said before, my biggest thing is I want good stories to go along with them, so that players have something to latch onto, but that we're not going to do that at the expense of game mechanics and new stuff, because I am also a gear and technology, guy. I love the new shiny toys. I love all that fun stuff, but going forward, I think there's going to be a lot more of that synergy. We're not going to see so much as a lot of super rules stuff, but we're going to see a progression a little bit more of the universe, of the actual Sixth World itself, and start developing some of that stuff. Maybe tie up some dangling plot lines that have been around for over 30 years, kind of put them to rest, but also start up some new stuff so that we can move the IP forward.
Oh, cool. Cool. All right, we got some questions in the chat. Here we go. Starting with this one. I've complained to Jason many times about the lack of art in Shadowrun Six World books. Can you add more art even if it's recycled? Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, we try to pack as much art into this stuff as we can. I myself am a huge fan of some of the older editions. Like I mentioned second edition at the beginning of this. That's where I got in on like the Street Samurai catalog, where you had like this wonderful layout. It looked like you're looking through an actual catalog. I love that, all the way into third edition, where you can actually see all the stuff. Every gun, weapon, whatever had its own page and stuff like that. I would love to go back to that. But at the end of the day, it comes down to what's affordable. Art is insanely expensive. Now, the idea of reusing art, we do reuse art on a regular basis whenever possible. But at the same time, there's only so much art that would fit in the product. Now, is art something that I've been pushing, especially in my the projects that I've fronted? Yes. I've pushed the boundary a few times to get as much art as I can. And for Tarnished Star, I'm working with our head artist to see about what we can do to see how much art we can get into that. Because, one of the things I want to show is, what do Lone Star's uniforms look like now? What does Knight Errant look like? What does some of the other departments and corporations that we're going to feature, what do they look like? Because it's Shadowrun. There is no generic police uniform anymore. No, everyone's got to have their own brand.
Branded,
Everyone's got to look a little different. But as long as I can find the money for it, I'm going to try to put in as much art as I can, because you also need that visual component to help with inspiration. Plus, it just looks good, But at the end of the day, we have to weigh that versus product cost, because if product cost is too much, then we don't make any money. And if the company doesn't make any money, we can't put out as much stuff. Now, we're actually in a really good spot right now where Shadowrun is doing really, really well. But, it's a balancing act. All I can promise is I can try to do more, but I'll see what I can do.
Well, I hope that helps, Brian. Let's see here. What's in store for Shadowrun missions from Wiley?
Okay, so we are, Shadowrun Missions is currently ongoing. I have been working with the Shadowrun Missions head. His name is Aaron Dykstra. He's one of the CDT agents, and he's also one of the Shadowrun freelancers. Does a lot of good work. You'll see his name in a lot of recent Shadowrun products. He is currently working on the next, I think so, the next season of missions. I believe the Tokyo arcs have since wrapped up. And I believe we are moving to the next location, which is going to be New Orleans. So, get ready to taste some gumbo because things are about to get spicy. So, but yeah, that's where things are headed. We're also constantly working on our convention exclusive missions. We are also currently working on some new mission legends specific adventures that are going to be for the Mission Legends games or the Shadowrun Legends games that we started doing, I think, a couple years ago at Gen Con. I've participated in 2 of them so far, and those are really, really fun. Those are usually more for like higher level, prime level runner or type characters. Although if you're brave enough to bring a beginning level character in, hey, you've got some guts. So, but yeah, we're still working on some of the fine tunes of some of the mission stuff. So we got a lot coming in the pike, especially with the 35th anniversary coming up. I can't talk a whole lot about that because we haven't nailed down everything just yet, and some things we're still kind of up in the air about. So, but I will also give a shout out to the Catalyst demo team while I'm here. They do a great job every year since we're talking about conventions and missions, and they're probably some of the best game masters and just general people I've ever had the pleasure to work with. And I started out as a demo agent, so I literally came from the trenches. So, and I will also say this, if you have even an inkling that that's something you might want to be a part of, if you want to help run games at some of these conventions and be a part of that, then by all means, contact the Catalyst demo team. I don't have the contact information, but I'm sure maybe Patrick, you and I could talk about maybe getting that information out there so that they can maybe join the demo team if they'd like.
Absolutely.
So, yep.
I can add that to the notes later once you get
there we go.
Get the stuff to me.
There we go.
Let's see. Brian's actually got some questions. This is great.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be involved with side projects like board games and such, or do you just manage the RPG?
Yes, I am going to be involved in those too. So, as a matter of fact, we have some other Shadowrun related, basically anything that's has something to do with Shadowrun, I will be involved with in some way, shape, or form, if nothing more than as an advisory role, because I'm the guy who knows the lore. I'm the guy who's in charge of where it's going. I've done a little bit of work and already on advising for some of the upcoming products. So we've got some more Kickstarters coming. Again, something I can't really talk about right now because we're not nailing down the finer details. But yeah, if it's Shadowrun involved, I will be a part of it in some way. So, plus, if you're involved in Shadowrun, I'm still a writer at heart. And yes, minute for a shameless plug here. There will be some Shadowrun fiction that will be coming out. There is going to be some anthology books, stuff like that. I may or may not have a story in one of those. So,
NDA, I'll never tell.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I will tease, but not confirm. So,
well, it kind of segues into. So I mean, there are going to be more novels and and anthologies.
Yes, cool. That is mostly the realm of John Helfers, who is the Catalyst fiction / novel line developer guy.
Oh, he's still there. Great.
John is still there.
I love John. He's a great guy to work with.
He has been very busy doing a lot of stuff. Right now, been working for both the major IPs. Right now, Shadowrun and BattleTech. So he's been a busy dude. So
cool. Very cool. So that from that, I'm going to segue over to something that is of personal interest to me. I know Jason was pretty gung ho getting Hollow Streets started.
Mm-hmm.
How are you on Hollow Streets? I mean, has it been?
I haven't seen any numbers, but then again, that's not something I don't think that we really have, since it's Hollow Streets. It's more about the individual content creators.
Yeah.
I have had a few people come to me and ask me questions about, hey, what can I put, what you can't put in there. To that, I say Hollow Streets is Hollow Streets. It was designed as, people coming up with their own stuff while kind of basing it off some of the Shadowrun mechanics and lore.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, obviously it's not official,
Yeah.
But I have seen some people come up with some really great ideas and publish some really interesting stuff. Before I got the line dev job, I was honestly thinking about putting out some Hollow Street stuff myself. Still don't know how that would work, but we'll see. It's been doing fairly well. I've seen a steady flow of products, but again, anytime you have a line that is based on what people put into it, it's going to succeed or fail on how much people put into it. I mean, we're always encouraging people to work and put in their effort, and do what they can, especially if it's a passion project of theirs and it's something they want to put out there. We encourage that. So,
yeah. Like I say, I've been using it to, I'm going, oh, hey, I got this old proposal.
Mm-hmm.
They're never going to do anything with this.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple of little things in there right now that I did mostly as a test the waters kind of thing, and between those two, they've bought a couple of nice dinners, but yeah, right now I'm kind of going through cleaning out old proposals, but I'm also looking at some other things, which I'll get with you about. Do you know if there are any plans on getting any more? They've got a few little art packs out there. Mm-hmm. One thing in particular that would help with some of the stuff that I'm looking at doing. And they've got they've got the game logo pack there, but a corporate logo pack. Where you've got Shiawasa's logo or As Technology's logo or Seder Krupp or something I'm specifically looking at, Cavalier Arms. That being my baby, but me not having any real graphics design, and I could conceivably pay my wife to do it, but she's got her own projects that she's working on.
Well, there's some art stuff that's in the works.
Okay.
But one of the things that may not be a bad idea is we're working on some new logos, especially with Tarnished Star, because we've got all these corporations, new ones that are going to be coming out with, like Lone Star, Dockwagon, Manadyne. They've all combined into one corporation, which is called OmniStar. So we've got to come up with a logo for those guys. We're probably going to update Knight Errant, Eagle Security, and we've got some international corporations we've been working with. Well, I've reached out to our friends in Germany and across Europe, specifically the guys in France, and they're going to be contributing some European department / corporations as well. And one of my good friends, Francis Jose, who is another Shadowrun freelancer from England, is going to be contributing some British corporations there. Good. Yep. So we've got a lot.
I dealt with Francis over the years. He's good people.
He is. So, and we've got a lot of new stuff in the works. So once we get all these new logos and stuff taken care of, maybe releasing them for people to use for Hollow Streets, I don't see why not. I got to run it by the bosses, but that's something I would support. So,
But yeah, I mean, because that would come in handy with, you know, oh, well, I've got a couple of column inches over here. I could put a corporate logo or something there, something relevant, and you know, that's the tricky part of Hollow Streets is coming up with the art. You know, to get back to Brian's thing. You know, trying to find. I mean, there's some good stuff there, but there's not a lot of it, and trying to find something useful outside is a little trickier than I thought it was going to be.
I mean,
it is.
It's fun. I would do a lot of research, and there are so many artists out there who do their own stuff, you know, who do their own fan art that is just absolutely phenomenal. And I would love to get some of these people, you know, working for us if I can. But unfortunately, that's not my wheelhouse per se, not yet. So
who's the AD now?
The AD, art director. There's a guy, but his name is Ian King. He is. He is. It was Brent Evans for a while, but he's kind of gone over doing more BattleTech. And then Ian has been doing Shadowrun. He's been doing most of the Shadowrun stuff for the last few years, and I worked with him when I started developing books myself. Another really talented artist and an even better organizer too. So we've been talking constantly about artwork and coming up with the best ways to put the best art in the books that we can. So
cool. Let's see what we got over here.
I think we kind of, there was a Kender Mage here. He's asking me, what do I play when I'm not playing Shadowrun? Okay, so, well, I don't want to sound too much like a Catalyst shill, but I do enjoy BattleTech. Who doesn't like big stompy robot tanks and blowing the loving stuffings out of things?
Boom. Yeah.
Yes, pretty much. I actually like aerospace in BattleTech more than I actually like the mechs, but I'm weird that way. I am also, you'll permit me a second here. Now, this is going to be old school, so there we go. So, yes, I am an old school
West End.
Yes. Now, I could show that book because, unfortunately, the company's been gone for many, many years, a couple decades now, which much to my sadness. But, yes, I am a big-time Star Wars nerd. And, Patrick, permit me one more thing. So, yes, this is the other. Yep, this is the other thing I play. There you go. So, all right, I'll take that off because I don't want to get into too much trouble, but you get my point.
You're not gonna get in trouble with me, man.
Yep. So, I also still play occasionally Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder. Like I said, I enjoy the fantasy games, mainly with friends and stuff like that. I like the martial classes, to be honest with you. You know, give me a big sword, axe, or something to swing, and I'm happy.
I want fuse.
Yes, exactly. So, but other than that, I play. That's pretty much. I don't get the chance to play too much anymore, which is kind of sad. It's kind of the bane of all gamers. I will jump in on occasional one-shot games at conventions whenever I can, especially the local stuff or whatnot. But if my friends are playing it, they say, "Hey, you want to jump in?" Yeah, I'll jump in with them. I mean, I've gone to a couple local game stores and jumped in. I play a little bit of 40K on occasion because minis, they're fun. But mostly just the tabletop stuff. Shadowrun is always my going to be my first true gamer love. Star Wars will always have a special place in my heart because it was the first movie I ever saw as a child. Literally the first movie I ever saw. And Star Trek was kind of the game and series that kind of was with me when I got older. Star Wars was fun. Star Trek kept me going through the adults. And then Shadowrun's always been there. So that's kind of my trifecta.
Cool. Cool. Well, I think we've covered just about everything I had planned to cover tonight. Do you have anything you want to say in closing, or?
No, I mean, thanks for having me on. Like I said, I appreciate all the support. I have gotten a lot of well wishes and a lot of positive feedback ever since the announcement of my ascension to line developer has gone out, and it's been very, very positive so far. So I thank everybody for that, and I hope to do this position justice going forward. So I'll also say we got a lot of good stuff coming down the pike. So if you're a Shadowrun fan, just, keep your eyes open. And if anyone is interested in the demo team stuff, I'll get with Patrick about that contact information. If you are interested, we could always use extra hands, and who knows, maybe someday you could chase me down at a convention and eventually you'll get my job. I mean, it happened once, it can happen again. But not for many years. I like this job and I'm holding on to it for a while. So.
All right. Well, Rob, I appreciate you taking your time this evening. Appreciate everybody who came out. I don't think anything blew up.
Well, you're still here, and I didn't see any static, so that's always a good thing.
That is a good sign. Mm-hmm. Didn't have to worry about any technomancers and neural spikes and.
Well, I hired some good deckers, to watch our back before we started this. So they earned their pay this time.
Awesome. All right. Well, like I said, Rob, thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on your inaugural live stream.
Woohoo! And nothing blew up. Thanks everybody for coming out. We will get the show notes updated as soon as I get some more information to put in there. In the meantime, guys, shoot straight, conserve ammo, and never, ever, ever cut a deal with a dragon. Good night, guys. No, really.
What is this kind of like